So what's been the biggest financial shock of moving out to the middle of nowhere of like, oh my God, we got to pay for this that I wasn't thinking of, or we've got to, I dropped $15,000 on this redundancy system. And then what's the thing where it's like, oh man, I used to spend so much money on that and now I don't even think about it. Like where's been the money trade-off? And then I want to ask some questions about the lifestyle trade-off.
Yeah, the money trade-off's been interesting because, going out there, my mortgage was low, right? There weren't many people. I was surprised I was able to get a traditional loan for where I was at, but I was. Great when, the interest rates were way better than they are now.
Right.
And so that was nice. So step one, mortgage payment drops down from where we were at in, Louisiana. But everything is expensive. And what I mean by everything is expensive, and, I know some of the signal groups you're a part of too, talking about preparedness, is redundant systems, generators, solar, livestock, feed for livestock, everything adds up. Like to live an off-grid lifestyle, and I would say we're probably in that pseudo off-grid. Again, we have a group co-op, we have redundancies, but everything's just expensive. And I can't think of one thing that was extremely expensive other than getting my house rewired to take a tri-fuel generator that had an auto failover, a couple grand. But it was just like the things you need to do the stuff you want to do. Like, okay, here's a $10,000 snowmobile to go trap line all winter so you can go trap wolves. Here's a UTV so you can go bait barrels.
Wait, go back to the trapping wolves. Is this to eat? Is this to keep them off your land from eating your sheep? Or what the fuck are you trapping wolves for?
So interestingly enough, I actually get paid to trap wolves. So the Foundation for Wildlife Management is a group based in Idaho and Montana who are actively working to not cull, but reduce the number of wolves because of the elk, deer, and other ungulate populations in Idaho. Wolves are a reintroduced species. They have boomed. Like right where I live, we have 5 packs that run around, and you will see elk kill, deer kill all winter along the road, and they just decimate the population. And they're growing because, there's not really many people actively going and reducing the numbers. So trappers specifically, you can get paid up to like $1,000 or $2,000 per wolf you take, depending on what region you're in, which is something that I actively do every winter.
So it's like supplemental income to hunt down the wolves to control the population so that the deer and the elk don't get wiped out, which will then, of course, kill all the wolves because they have nothing left to eat.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think the goal is to kill up all the wolves, but, just have a manageable
keep
number.
them manageable. That's what I'm saying. This is something that pisses me off about the media and just our general political malaise right now. I hear that, and because I know enough about people that hunt, I've hunted a couple times in my life. I'm not a hunter, but I know enough, and I'm very close with my uncle who hunts religiously 3-4 times a year, that like this is part of the ecosystem that we've screwed up as humans and introduced species into the wrong places, where now we have to step in and solve the problem, right? So it's like wolves got reintroduced inappropriately. I think wasn't that in Yellowstone or something? They reintroduced them and then it like decimated the elk and the deer population or something. So then we had to go in and fix that and fix that. It just goes on and on and on. And so if somebody just heard you, oh, Zachary just kills wolves for money, it's like, well, yes, that's a cool way to supplement your income. And it's absolutely necessary if we want deer and elk and caribou and all that stuff. Well, I don't know if you have caribou in Idaho, but all of that stuff to continue to thrive. It's just part of like adjusting the ecosystem that we've kind of tampered with. Is that a fair assessment?
It's a fair assessment. And like, that's the battle going on in Colorado because they're trying to reintroduce them. And I think they reintroduced a few. And in the region that they introduced them, there's already been multiple, pet fatalities. And now, the people who wanted to reintroduce them are like, well, now they're eating fluffy. Like, I don't want that. I want the pretty wolves to stare at and take a picture out of my car, but I don't want, my Anna or my pet to be eaten. And that's where this whole balance thing comes in, is like, as we grow as a race and we're expanding, like we take over habitat, and, you can talk about whether that's right or wrong, and there's habitat protection, and that's great. But there's only so much carrying capacity for these animals. And that's what's interesting. Same with grizzly bears. You introduce them into Yellowstone, they don't know the boundaries.
Right.
Yeah. It is completely likely that, Yellowstone pack leaves, goes up in Idaho or down into Wyoming. Same with the grizzly. And then there's instances of that slowly coming about where they're just spreading. And, sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But in the case of wolves, and specifically where we're at, it's a really big impact on the ungulate population.
Have you heard of this? I can't remember exactly how it happened, but either it's getting warm enough that like the timber wolves of Colorado are coming down into Oregon and crossbreeding with the coyotes. So I guess from what I've read, wolves are pretty dumb, but they're apex predators, and coyotes are pretty weak, but they're super, super brilliant, which is how they like snake, chickens out of your fully enclosed coop. But now they're crossbreeding where you're getting these super coyotes that are more like alpha apex predators like the wolves, but they're super bright like coyotes. And I think they're showing up over like northern Oregon or something. Have you heard about this? This is like some super predator.
I haven't heard about that, but I do want to correct you on one thing. Wolves are not dumb.
Okay.
I am just the worst trapper in the world, but like both coyotes and wolves, and this is the other thing where there's a misconception around trapping, I think, where people say, oh, you just indiscriminately put this piece of steel out in the woods. Damn, it's hard. Trapping is the hardest thing. I invite anybody who thinks that trapping is just indiscriminate, easy, to come out with me, because you have to go through this process of descenting everything. You're carrying hundreds of pounds of chain and traps many, many miles into some of the most remote, rugged country in the world. And you're expecting, the way I like to say, if you have a trap, that's, 6 inches by 6 inches, if you're trapping in 3,000 acres of national forest land, you're expecting a really intelligent canine to put their paw on a 6-inch square piece of metal in that vast wilderness. Good luck.
No. I've seen the movie, Zachary. You just put like a lasso thing on the ground and it like whips them up into the tree. Isn't this how everybody falls for it in every movie? It's super easy. Super easy. Yeah. Come on.
Well, I'm doing it wrong. I need the Scott training on that.
You got to watch the Wile E. Coyote training on that, man.
I know. I got to kick out my Acme Dynamite. But it's hard is the point. And you're right on the regulation, but wolves are intensely smart. Coyotes are also intensely smart. Like, to do good trapping is hard. But I don't want to hear about a coyote wolf hybrid, because like I'm already outsmarted by both of those. So, I can kiss any opportunity to take a wolf coyote hybrid out of the picture if they're smarter and faster and, more intellectual.
It's a whole thing. They're called coy wolves.
Coy wolves. There we go. Well, yeah, we're gonna have to link to that in the description for anybody who's a nerd and wants to read about hybrid animals. What is it? A liger? Is that the lion tiger?